You're watching Aurora 8, television for your city.
Greetings and welcome to Dateline Aurora. Tom Tobiassen has long been interested in seeing residents move around a lot more easily and economically through Aurora. In 1998, he founded Bicycle Aurora. In 2008, he was elected to the RTD Board of Directors. So get out your bus passes, tokens, and smart cards. Smart cards, what is that? He is here to talk about transportation in Aurora, including light rail along I-225 and bus service. That's all coming up next on Dateline Aurora. Greetings and welcome to Dateline Aurora. I'm Adam Dempsey. If you travel Aurora by bike, bus, or light rail, our guest is advocating for you. Tom Tobiassen has spent years working to make sure moving around Aurora is a lot easier. Tom, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be
So
here.
if I'm on bicycle in the bicycle lane, you're going to make sure none of those drivers come too close.
We're
right?
going to try to keep you safe as possible.
Give them enough space.
That's right.
For sure. How do you like being on the RTD Board of Directors?
I enjoy being on the RTD board. It's an honor to serve the people of Aurora, but it is a lot of work, takes a lot of time, and it cuts into personal time and family time for sure.
You know, RTD's long been one of our favorite topics. Mark, you can give us a wide shot. We have props, okay? Some of the bus lines that serve Aurora right here, and a real bus pass that's valid for another 2 days.
That's right, for May.
So I'm one of your customers.
Good for you.
You get to talk to me about it. You know, one of the things that has just been driving people crazy is I-225, getting the light rail coming up that corridor there.
Right.
Give us a quick update on what the status is, where it is. Are we ever going to see it, or is it just something that it's going to be on fast tracks, but we can talk about it, but it won't happen?
Sure. Well, Adam, we've got a lot of good news for the I-225 corridor going from 9 Mile North up to Smith Road. Construction has started to extend the light rail line from 9 Mile to Iliff, and we're going to be adding a light rail station at Iliff with 900 parking spaces is the proposal right now. And along with that will be the widening of I-225 to 6 lanes. So it's a cooperative project with CDOT and RTD to get that segment of the line done, and also it replaces the Yale Avenue Bridge.
It replaces the Yale Bridge, and it goes up. Why stop at Iliff? Couldn't you go up to Mississippi? It just seems like there are more cars who would access RTD at Mississippi than down at Iliff, because Iliff is so close to 9 Mile Station.
Right. Well, the determination that was made was, you know, what segment could we build that was useful, and there's not going to be a park and ride station at Mississippi. There is going to be a park and ride at Iliff, and then there will be another park and ride at City Center near the Aurora Mall area. So Iliff made sense at this point, and we had savings from the Eagle project, which is the line that's going out to DIA from downtown Denver Union Station. The savings from that is funding. It's about $90 million that's being used to fund this first segment, and it's a useful segment that will add parking. So that was the justification. The other good news is that Kiewit Infrastructure Group has a proposal on the table right now to further extend the I-225 corridor from Iliff north. It's not clear exactly how far north yet. We'll have to see what their proposal says, but it looks very good that it'll continue further north, hopefully to City Center.
If you could answer the question about that. Now, is this built on the same kind of model that built E470, where a private corporation came in and partnered with the counties and that kind of stuff to get that the east side of that highway done?
No, that's the E470 was, you know, pretty much for the most part self-funded and funded through the toll.
Right.
Through the tolls, whereas this is all the RTD Fast Tracks projects are generally funded through the sales tax that voters approved in 2004. And in addition to that, the federal government, Federal Transit Administration, has come in and with grants and subsidized basically the Eagle project, which is the line going out to DIA from downtown, and they've provided substantial grants for the West Corridor going out to Golden along US 6. So the federal government plays a big part, you know, through the Federal Transit Administration, and then the sales tax dollars that that we voted for.
Now, Fitzsimmons, I know you've heard about that a lot.
Yes, the Anschutz Fitzsimmons campus.
Anschutz Fitzsimmons, no doubt about it. Now, do they have to wait on light rail until it comes down from the north, until the Eagle project going to DIA is done, or an extension of 225 coming north? Because that's light rail versus commuter rail.
Right,
How
exactly.
are you going to get in there for that?
So we have to continue to do the light rail up the corridor
Right.
in through the Anschutz Fitzsimmons campus, because the light rail technology is not compatible with commuter rail technology. So we couldn't build a short spur off the commuter rail line at Smith Road and bring it down to the campus, because it just doesn't work. And then we wouldn't be able to get those light rail vehicles in for maintenance. We'd have to truck them to their maintenance facility. So it just doesn't make sense. We just need to get the line continue extension on up I-225 to the Anschutz Fitzsimmons
I
campus.
just can't
get
wait
it
to
done.
see when you build the light rail up to 25, when you bring it into Sable to Center Point here, how that little design is going to work. How many streets we got to cross? Is going to be a tunnel? I'm fascinated to see that one.
Yeah, that'll look a lot like downtown, because it'll be on surface, it'll be on the street, and it'll be crossing some of the intersections on the street with gates and things like that. And or if not gates, then signal lights. It'll be crossing just like.
We have a
downtown.
graphic there that shows what you're talking about.
Right. So you see the line going up along I-225. It just crossed Florida. We should be coming across Mississippi right here. So it'll fly over Mississippi, and then it will land back along Abilene and make a right turn right down the center of Exposition.
This is where that was the only way you could get in there.
Yeah, and it'll look just like it does downtown. And then it comes to the Center Point station near City Center, across from the Aurora Mall area. And that station is a bus terminal right now.
Yeah.
And this will be the light rail station with parking and a typical
stuff.
light rail station. And then hopefully we'll see development all around that area that'll support transit.
Yeah, and then getting back out onto 25. I don't think the animation goes that far north yet, but that's also going to be an
Here we
interesting.
go.
Oh,
so
yes,
now we'll
it
see you
does.
take it
All
up.
right.
Right.
Just speak and it happens.
Right. So.
Goes across Ellsworth.
Right. So that was behind the Target.
Yeah.
And then.
Back north to 6th Avenue.
We're going over 6th Avenue, and then here behind the RTD bus barn facility.
Yeah.
It will be a station there, and then it makes a left turn, goes under 225, and back up over Colfax Station. And this is a bridge over, so the station won't actually be a park and ride.
Sure.
The station will be on the bridge itself, and then it continues up along the St. Creek Parkway, and makes a left turn onto Montview Boulevard, where the next station will be right in the center of the Anschutz Fitzsimmons campus, next to some transit-oriented development, mixed-use retail space, this Montview station. And a lot of that development exists today, so they're waiting for the train to come.
So basically it just goes up there, then it comes in reverse path
Yep, and it continues on to Peoria, and then it turns.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, and it goes up north right on Peoria, crosses Peoria just to the north of this point, and it joins up with the DIA, the air train, at the station at Smith and Peoria.
Smith and Peoria.
And there'll be a park and ride there also. So you'll transfer from the light rail train to the commuter rail train to go on out to DIA, or you can go downtown from that point.
Now, this is a real expensive build. I can tell that particular design, the streets it has to cross, the flyovers, the stations, in an area that's already so urbanized. It's like going all the way through downtown, but for 15 miles.
Right. Fortunately, it's along right-of-ways that either the city owns or CDOT owns. So there's not a lot of land required for RTD to acquire through the eminent domain process for 225. There is some, but it's.
But those bridges don't come cheap.
Bridges don't come cheap, and it is a whole new system. We're starting from scratch, so it is a fairly expensive proposition, but it will move thousands of people, and the parking situation out at Anschutz Fitzsimmons is going to be pretty desperate, and we'll need alternate ways to get people out there.
Okay. I'm going to flip the flow around a bit instead of going into some of the operational stuff of RTD. The thing about bicycles.
Okay.
How did you envision the good use of bicycles in Aurora? Because things were so spread out.
Right.
You think, well, maybe a bicycle is good for recreation, but for using it every day to get back and forth to work. Tell us about the vision that you came up with there.
Right. Well, my wife and I moved to Aurora in 1988. we were working for the Defense Department overseas, and moved to Aurora, and I started working out of Buckley Air Force Base. And Buckley happens to be close enough to make a real good bicycle commute. It's about 8 miles each direction.
Right.
So I started riding my bike to work every day just for fitness, and then finding my way around town to get there without riding on the main arterial streets.
Right.
And one day, the Aurora Parks and Open Space Department at that time was looking at building a bike trail, and they were having a public meeting, and I showed up at the public meeting and thought it was a great idea. So we formed a bicycle club, Bicycle Aurora at that time,
Right.
to advocate for more and better connected, safer bike routes, bike trails in Aurora, and that's you know, how it started, and that was the vision, and then it just, you know, it just takes a
Continues
vision
to
of
grow
people,
there.
to continue to grow. And Aurora, actually, just recently, the American League of Bicyclists announced the results of their survey, and Aurora ranks #2 in the nation for bike path miles, #2 in the nation
Wow.
for bike path miles.
That's
We're,
tremendous.
We're number 12 in the nation right now, so we're in the top 20 for a combination of bike paths and striped bike lanes. So I think that's a huge commitment that Aurora, you know, City Council has made to support bicycle and multimodal transportation.
Do you think Aurorans would also sustain and support the bicycle outreach that's going on in Denver now, where you can just walk up and put your 50 cents in and rent a bike and ride all over the place?
Oh, the Bicycle? I think in some areas, like on the Anschutz Fitzsimmons campus, a Bicycle program would be very viable, because students and employees are moving around between buildings all the time. So yeah, I think a quick rental and a membership subscription like they're doing. And that program is expanding throughout the region, so I think, yeah, absolutely.
Do you envision not only in Aurora but other parts of Americans embracing the bicycle the way it's done, and maybe in Asia, and some places in Europe as well?
You know, I guess it's sort of the economy in some parts of Asia where the bicycle makes more sense and the cars are fairly expensive. So to get around a bicycle, you know, is the way to go. I think Americans are looking for the bicycle as a mode of transportation, to save money, to remain, you know, to get fitness, to get exercise. We've got great weather, great location. It's just riding a bicycle, it just makes sense most of the time. And I was commuting out to Buckley Air Force Base, you know, half the time. So half the number of days I'd go to work, I'd have to take a car for weather or whatever reason, meetings, and then the other half I was taking the bicycle. So it was very, very cost effective.
So what's the next step in the development of the use of the bicycle in Aurora?
I think, you know, with the Anschutz Fitzsimmons campus and the student population, we're going to see a continued growth in bicycle use and acceptance, and I think just more connectivity, better, even more striped bike lanes so people can find their way around town will be, you know, will drive it further. So I think the bicycle is here to stay. People love it. They like taking, you know, getting on weekends. The paths are getting more and more crowded.
Oh yeah.
So you know,
on your right.
Well,
on
you know,
on your left.
my concept of success is when I start hearing complaints that the trails are too full. You know, then I know we got there.
Pedestrians, get out of the way. This is a bike lane now. I wanted to make sure that that the use of bikes did not get lost in all the RTD stuff, and so my producer said, make sure you talk about bikes. I'm going to put it right in the middle, because it is very effective, and people who have been working on it and taking a leadership role in it, like yourself, just wanted to let everybody know where that stands too. That's something that they can use, get out, and enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So every bus has racks on the front of it, so it can handle 2 bikes, and if the bus is not overly crowded, the drivers could allow bike riders to take their bike onto the bus if there's space.
Oh yeah.
Trains all have space. There's rules for bringing your bike on the trains. We do have bicycle lockers at, you know, all the major stations, and we have bike racks and bike hangers at the station, so you can lock your bike and leave it and go and have your bike when you get back. So
good.
So RTD is very bike friendly, and we're a sponsor of Bike to Work Day, which is coming up June 27th. So and a lot of the employees at RTD are riding bikes.
Are you going to bike to work?
I usually work one of the breakfast stations at Tread's Bicycle Outfitters, so you'll find me there serving coffee and muffins and bagels, as I've been doing for the past 15 years.
Since you mentioned the acronym RTD again, we can flow right back there again. I know when we took a look at the light rail coming up up to 225, and you just indicated that it's going to be going as far as Iliff now. You're rebuilding the Yale Bridge there. I know not too long ago they put a separate pedestrian bridge across there, but now you're just going to change all that. What's it going to look like when you get done?
Well, the new bridge will look more like your normal bridge. It'll have 4 lanes of traffic with bike lanes and wide sidewalks so that pedestrians. The old bridge was not very user-friendly from a pedestrian standpoint, and it had that extra bike lane steel bridge next to it. That bridge came out, that steel bridge came out, and that's going to be used for parks and open space on the trail system. And you know, we're not sure where that'll go, but I'm sure it'll get put to good use.
The viewers are seeing some of the construction going on.
You can see that
now.
Right there is the
I
pedestrian
thought that was
bridge.
great. Hey, make sure they're not there in those cars again. There's something called TODs, Transit-Oriented Development. What's that about?
Right, transit-oriented development, and I tend to be switching the name to pedestrian-oriented development. I'm thinking that even transit-oriented developments tend to be more car-centric and parking-centric, where I would like to push more of a pedestrian-centric. But what basically it is where we have a combination of people as a center, and a transit stop with light rail, and possibly buses, and then a mixed use of residential, homes, condos, apartments, and retail, so people can do their shopping and everything at these centers, and then some office space. So it's a high density use that will encourage more transit ridership on the system. So it's
great vision there.
But yeah, people oriented I think is really the key.
Where do we get the money to do all this stuff?
Well, the RTD does the train part, so we're going to bring a train, bring a station in, and help with the parking structure. But the community around it, the city and the landowners and the developers, are going to come in with the vision for what that pedestrian-oriented, transit-oriented development will look like in that area. And each station will be unique to itself depending on the neighborhoods surrounding it. So and the neighborhoods have a lot of input into that process.
And that's going to be the funding philosophy going all the way through that I-225 corridor then? It'll be a shared between RTD and the city?
Yeah, RTD is just really focused on delivering the train and the funding for that. And RTD is not in the land use development business at all. We will assist and advise and try to encourage transit-oriented development, but it's really up to the city, and the city of Aurora has done a great job. Loretta Lindsay is the transit-oriented development planner, and she's done a lot of work and a lot of public outreach, a lot of public meetings at every station along the way, and each station has its own framework plan right now.
Now, a lot of Aurorans thought that when they voted for fast tracks, that was going to take care of the whole thing. Is Aurora going to have to see a separate bond issue, tax increase, just to get the corridor done?
And that's the big question. So, as we were saying before, we're going to Iliff with the savings from the DIA line out the Eagle project. The Kiewit proposal is bringing in new funding. I shouldn't say new funding, but new financing mechanisms. And we're hoping that we're going to be using some innovation, seeing some innovation in the way this project is financed. But ultimately, we're going to have to come up with other sources for funding. And going back to the taxpayer for an additional sales tax is an option, which we decided not to do this year. Mayor Hogan just put out an idea where the Aurora would vote on a tax to basically loan RTD the money to finish the line, and then RTD would pay back that loan over time with the sales tax money that they're already collecting for fast track. So there's a couple of options out there, and we're going to have to talk about it.
Is that appealing to the RTD Board of Directors to have the municipality or home rule city actually act as a banker for them?
We haven't talked about that at the board level yet, so it's kind of a new concept. It's come up once before, but it really hasn't gone anywhere, so this is the first time where we're actually probably going to take a look at it and see if Aurora actually wants to put a measure like that forward. And Aurora, the mayor will have to outreach to the residents and the citizens in Aurora to see if they're interested in supporting that kind of ballot measure.
At the beginning of the program, I held up a number of the bus schedules that we have here in Aurora. Are we going to see an increase in bus service, maybe new routes, as opposed to increasing present routes that from an hour to a half hour? Because Aurora's growing way beyond E4 70, are we going to be seeing circulators out there? We're going to go,
Right.
are we going to be seeing any increase in service there at all? Maybe a 169 that runs all day.
Right, and I would say that the potential for a 169X going out to DIA along Airport and Buckley is a possibility, because I think the numbers will eventually be there. You know, bus route service is really a function of ridership, and ridership is driven by density. How many people are living in certain areas that will be using the bus? And if you look along E470, the densities are not real high right now, so and the distances are long, so when you start looking at the numbers, it's hard to justify. And we had bus, you know, the 66 went out to, out towards,
Arapahoe Crossing?
it went from Arapahoe Crossings east to the Cherry Creek Trails High School.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have the numbers out there to support that route, and we wound up cutting that out. And the senior planning manager lives out there, and that's, you know, he was interested in seeing if he could develop that route, and it just didn't happen. So ridership numbers are really key, and when the densities get high enough, the riders will come along with it, and that's what justifies
Is
it.
RTD moving from a bus-centric service to a more light rail anchored service, getting suburbanites in town and back out, than it is getting people across town on a bus?
Right. I would say that, you know, RTD has done regional buses for a long time, and the regional bus is being replaced by the light rail service. So you will see in some areas where there isn't light rail, you're going to continue to see regionals and locals. But where there is a light rail that's serving, you know, the major activity centers, you'll see the feeder buses feeding, just like we have feeder buses feeding 9 Mile today from all over Aurora.
Yeah.
I think you'll see an increase in that kind of service with feeder buses or call-in rides that will feed the light rail stations, and the light rail will take more people to the activity centers like DIA, like downtown.
Well, the reason why I asked you that one too was because of those feeders coming in. We've seen the H line and light rail move from 2 cars to now 3.
To
and
4.
I think
We're actually at 4. Oh, absolutely.
You're right. Yeah, I've seen a 4. Not as often as a 3, but a 4.
During peak time, and I've received
There's no place to park in the garage anymore.
Right, and then, you know, the iLift station will add 900 parking spaces to help that. But again, the feeders, you know, I would encourage people to use the feeders rather than drive. Excuse me, to you know, to free it when for waiting for a quick ride on the bus, and it's included in your fare, the feeder bus. So the feeder bus can take you down from many parts of Aurora, you know, in less than 10 minutes to 9 Mile, drop you right off at the gate, and then it's just a short walk up to the station.
Since we're seeing 4-car trains coming out of 9 Mile again, because of the feeder buses and all that, are we going to see a reincarnation of the G line going down to Park Meadows?
Absolutely.
Because you still got rails and bridges that have been sitting there now for 3 years.
Right. So the G line is not technically gone away, even though it's not running, but the G line will run from basically Lincoln Station or south all the way up to the Smith Peoria. That is the G line that will make that run.
Okay.
So as soon as the numbers make sense that we can return the G line, that will be here. If the rail gets extended to City Center, that will be the G line that will come up to City Center.
Yeah.
And I've requested staff planning look at bringing back the G line when the iLift station opens to see if the numbers will justify it.
Well, I mean, they've done a good job with learning how to use the F in the morning and the evening.
And doing that switch.
And the OG just did that as well, because I was on a couple of Gs that were just completely filled, and then a few weeks later, a few months later, it's totally gone.
Right.
And now these people are standing there at Sophomore going, I'm freezing.
Right. You know, and the G line was a single car train.
Right.
You know,
it was.
so it was crowded. We could have put more trains on, but you know, again, it gets back to the cost and the numbers, and you know, does it justify? And we were down to four trains in the morning and 4 in the evening.
Right.
And staff just felt like the cost was too high for the number of riders that we're supporting at that time.
I used another term at the beginning of the show called smart cards. Where are they now?
They are rolling.
Are we going to see those because they're replacing transfers?
Well, yeah, I would like to replace transfers. But the smart card is going to replace your pass and your annual pass on Eco Pass and all of those passes initially, and it's being rolled out in Boulder right now. It will eventually, you'll be able to put value on it, so you'll be able to charge it up like you do at the E470 toll.
And in other words, is this a de facto price increase for those who use a pass and may ride
Theoretically, you're going to
You
be
could-
able to get a discount if you use it, just like you do on E470.
Wait, I just want to be clear about this one, you know, because if I get an $80 pass, right now I can ride all day anywhere I want to go,
right.
all right? Now, according to what I'm hearing about Smart Card, I can ride until the $80 runs out.
No,
And then I got to recharge it.
It depends on the kind of pass that you're buying with the Smart Card. So if you have a monthly pass or an Eco Pass, you ride all day, every day. What it will allow RTD, every time you tap on, it will allow RTD to figure out who's using what pass, because right now we don't know. RTD doesn't know what the numbers are.
Yeah, I've checked a couple of stories about that. I said, why did you bring that card in Boulder, where real world people go to work every day in Denver, who really, like the people on the 15, the 15L, you know, the Broadway Zero, those are the ones who really need to figure out how that system should work instead of the students in Boulder. Who, well, let me see, they're going home now this summer. That's a lot of Smart Card guys going to be up there.
Yeah, the ridership numbers in Boulder are real high, and they use a lot of Eco Pass and other passes. So rolling it out in Boulder made sense as a pilot, so that we could. There's a lot of technology in there, and they had an enormous amount of trouble getting that technology to work just right on the buses. So
they sure did.
So learning the technology, getting it installed and checked out at all the different pieces, and then doing the training for the users and all that, it's a really big process.
But when it comes down here with the second level, with real world people, a lot of that's going to change.
Right, and RTD has hired a staff to just do the training and outreach to the folks that'll be using the system. So
some of the drivers, they will remain nameless, of course. They're trying to get the transfers out, because we had heard stories about how they were going to do it, and you just buy it the way you do a light rail pass. But I said, okay, you're going to put a machine on every corner to make that happen.
Right, right.
One final thing before we run out of time here. You've also increased security on buses as well.
Yes, so it was one of the first things that I heard when I came to the board from a group of what was called the Safety on Buses Coalition, that was basically folks that lived along Colfax. They felt like they were not safe on the buses in Aurora. So I worked with RTD staff to hire 32 Aurora police officers to work overtime on a part-time basis, patrolling RTD facilities and buses. So that program started about 3 weeks ago. I'm hearing good stories, and the Aurora police officers that are doing it are thrilled to be learning, and it also establishes a better working relationship between Aurora police and the RTD security staff. So I'm hoping that will make people feel better on the bus, and all of our facilities, park and rides and all that, when we have police officers that are really committed to public safety of the transit rider.
Yeah, well, to make sure that the audience knew that you were doing that, but not scaring them to death by spending a whole bunch of time on it.
No.
But it is necessary there. There's no doubt about it.
Right, and Denver's been doing that. RTD has hired 75 Denver police officers, and they've been doing this program for years. So this is nothing new. It's new for Aurora, and and it requires us, to train our officers to work in a transit environment, which is going to be new for them.
Yeah, we've had to give a couple of light rail cops some education on how you cross lines with passes.
Right.
And you don't pay another $1.50 when you go into an A zone. But that's a whole entirely different show.
That's different, and that's on the light rail. Right.
Thank you a lot, Tom.
All right, Adam.
It's
a pleasure.
Great
thank
show.
you.
That's all the time we have for this evening, and we thank you for watching Dateline Aurora, and make sure you ride the bus, and we'll see you back here next month. Good night.
Thanks.
You're watching Aurora 8, nationally recognized for excellence in government programming.